gathered round, they gazed in wide wonder at the joy they found. The nurse spoke up, said, "Leave this one alone." She could tell right away that I was bad to the bone. All right. Welcome out to the Gridiron 64 podcast, where today we'll be talking about the week 5's breakdown of the games that were on the schedule. I believe we had 12 games on the schedule this past week. We had some really good games on Friday. Some surprises. I was surprised at some games. Some I was not. I guess you could say we had some upsets, but I've got the guys with me here, Johnny and Tony. Guys, how you doing? How you doing, Johnny?
Doing good. I'm doing good.
Tony, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man.
Now, this is the first time we've done this podcast early in the morning. It's early Sunday morning, so we still might be a little out of it. We are usually doing this in the late evening, late afternoon, early evening. So we'll see how it goes. But we have the 12 games that we're going to break down for you guys today. So if you're ready, guys, we can start.
Let's go. I'm just relocating.
All right. So game one on our schedule was the Westoso Bears and the Kingsville Brahmas. And of course, Westoso won this game 33-0. This was Westoso's first win of the season, and it was an impressive one. And we had been talking about, Westoso was eventually gonna pick it up, and so in week 5 we see Westoso getting their first win. So when we talk about Westoso, I'll go to Tony first. Tony, the Bears won 33-0. What's your take on this game?
Well, I watched some of it. I was streaming some of it, so I watched the first half. It wasn't that impressive. You know what I mean? They got the first 2 points on a safety, so they didn't really earn those points. And then they were only able to score another touchdown after that. I mean, they drove the ball. They did well when they did that, but it took them a little while to get it going. But I mean, in the end, they scored 33 points. You know what I mean? They blanked Kingsville. So, the first half wasn't impressive. But since they came out and really dominated in the second half, they've at least showed me a complete game. So like I said, it's going to take them a while to get going with the new coach. They had a pretty good tempo on the field, and I think if they keep that up, they got some speed. I think they're gonna be good. I don't know how they'll do in district with the district being so tough, but I think between them and Ingleside, I mean it's a battle for that playoff spot.
So hey Tony, were you impressed with Westoso's defense? I mean they held Kingsville to 0 to no touchdown points. So how was that Westoso defense?
It was hard to say. It was hard to say because, Kingsville's offense didn't look that great. So it's really hard to say. I mean, they look good against Kingsville, I'll say that. But I'll say that, the Kingsville offense didn't look that great. Just kind of like Aransas Pass whenever Rockport played AP, they beat them 26-0, but AP really didn't show nothing. And that's kind of what it looked like with Kingsville.
Okay. Johnny, I believe you picked Kingsville.
I did.
What's your take on the game?
Well, I was very impressed with Westoso. They scored more points that game than they had the entire season combined. They've only had 25 points the entire season combined. So I was not really expecting that. So I guess that has something to say about a lot of first week jitters this week, coming from Kingsville and stuff like that. So I don't know what kind of practices they've had since then, before that game and stuff like that. But as I hear what Tony is saying, that Kingsville didn't come out, as like somebody that really wanted to play, I guess you want to say. But I guess who knows? Kingsville could turn it around too. Everybody had that first week jitters. So, but I was very impressed by West Osa scoring still 33 points.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't read into this whole Kingsville whether they'll be good or bad. It was their first game of the season. I don't know how much practice they've had. Right, Westoso's played just about every week, so we'll just have to wait a couple of weeks and see what Kingsville brings. But either way, it was a great win. For the Bears. The boys are gonna be feeling good. And let's see if they can, tack on another win next week. But either way, good win for Westoso. Congratulations to the Bears, right, to get their first win. As we always talk on this podcast, right, we always want to see people from our district, win some games because when we play these teams in district, we want it to be competitive. So it was great to see, Westoso get the first win of the season. Game two, we had the Lavernia Bears playing the Sitting Pirates. Now, the three of us picked Lavernia. Lavernia did not win this game. They lost 14-20. I was informed, I don't know how true this is, but I was informed that the Lavernia quarterback was out. He did not play, so I think that would make a big difference. But either way, Sitting got the win. Johnny, I'll go to you first. We all picked Lavernia. Lavernia had been on a roll. So when we picked this game, we thought, based on the way Sitting had been playing Lavernia, we thought, man, Lavernia is going to take it. It didn't turn out that way. Sitting comes up with the victory. What was your thoughts on this game and Sitting beating Lavernia?
Um, yeah, I was kind of impressed by Sitting beating Lavernia, but then you had said that their starting quarterback had been out, so that can put any kind of damper on any team, because that's all they work with is just their quarterbacks, pretty much, just over and over and over, and they, I saw the score, it was 7-7 at the half, so I figured that, that's what Sit's been playing all year, is the half games and never finishing off, and I was expecting Lavernia to take off there in the second half, but it just never happened. Lavernia had a little offensive going too. They had 320 yards total offense, so it's not like they're really shut down, by Sitting and stuff like that. Which, as I said over and over and over, Sitting has given up some yards this year. A bunch of some yards. Um, I do notice that they're using two quarterbacks now. Um, it's not only Galvan, so they have a second quarterback back there too. I don't know why they're using them and stuff like that. Um, his name's Braden Brown, and they shared passing yards pretty much. They split that passing yards, so it's not like one's throwing more than the other. So I don't know what's the combo they're going on and stuff like that. So Sinton does have another quarterback, so something for our district to looking forward to and stuff like that with them.
Hey, this Braden Ryan, he's a little taller than Galvan, I think, isn't he? Because I think I've
Yeah,
also seen him play receiver.
yeah.
So
He came out in the Simpson game versus Miller, Simpson versus Miller because Gabang he was injured, so he came out in the. I want to say he played most of the fourth quarter. I want to say,
yeah,
but yeah, I think he's a sophomore, and yeah, he's kind of tall. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah, I
see.
did. I did. I did. When did notice when he went in, I figured Galvan was out for the game or replaced. But Galvan came back and continued on with his passing too. So it was like they were sharing that game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got the win. Tony, what was your take on this sit and win over Lavernia?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of like what I've been saying all year. About playing four quarters. Since hadn't showed that whenever they started off the season playing Beeville, losing to Orange Grove and Beeville, uh, and then Miller. You know what I mean? They didn't show that. Uh, so and they played four quarters last week. And they played against a really tough opponent this week in Lavernia, and they got the win. And I mean, whether Lavernia had the quarterback or not, that does hinder on a team, the performance. But I think overall, it's just an impressive win for Sinton, and congratulations to Sinton. You know what I mean? I think that's going to make the district a lot more interesting. Um, so I'm just like I said, still a little shocked because Lavernia has been doing so well. But anything can happen on a Friday night, and Sinton's not a terrible team. Sinton, I mean, they're not. They haven't been in a few years. So, it's just an impressive win for Sinton, and I'm glad for them.
I'll tell you, and I said this in an earlier podcast. The defense have been struggling, and we talked on this podcast about just Sid not being, kind of falling apart. The first couple of games of the season, they fell apart. They played a really impressive first half, and the second half, it was like another team was out there. The one thing I said on this podcast was that these guys play hard. For Troutman, I mean they just play tough. And one thing I've noticed about Sid, and even last year, they started out the season like that. Rockport, beat them pretty convincingly last year, but they got better as the season, continued. Every week this team gets better. That's just who Sitton is. So when you see them, struggle or lose the first couple of games, mid-season they always get better. They don't always stay like that. They make their adjustments, but they always get better. Last year they went 3 rounds into the playoffs, just like Rockport did. So it wasn't the same team in that third round that it was that it was the same team when you saw them in the season in the third round as you did when they first started. So this is a team that always gets better. And like Tony said, even though the Lavernia a quarterback went in, that's what I was informed. A win's a win. I mean, they still got the win, so they had to play good football. Because even if Lavernia's quarterback is out, Lavernia's still a good football team. So for them to come out and get that win, it's huge for them. And Rockport's going to be playing Sitton in 2 weeks. So the showdown's going to go down in 2 weeks down there in Sitton. So, we'll see. This win, it just hypens up that game. And that's going to be, to me, in 2 weeks, the big game, because I believe that, and no disrespect to Ingleside, but I believe that whoever wins this game in 2 weeks will probably, be in the driver's seat for the district champs. And so, it's just 2 weeks away. So we've got to make the adjustments, and we've got to be able to clean up whatever we need, because district starts in 2 weeks. So it's going to be really good, that game between Rockport and Sitton. So congratulations to the Sitton Pirates. It's they get that win over Lavernia. It's a huge win in my opinion, and so I don't know what we'll find out later on who they play next week. But great win for the Sitton Pirates. Uh, our third game on the schedule was Caricio Springs playing the Robstown Cotton Pickers. Tony, you picked Robstown. Robstown got beat again, 19-0. But again, Robstown can't score a bucket. They can't score a touchdown. This is again where that offense is non-existent. They just can't get anything going. So Tony, I'll go to you first. What's going on with Robstown? I mean, that offense almost seems like they're not even playing.
Yeah, I picked Robstown, and the reason I picked Robstown is because Carrizo, I mean, they haven't really played anybody, and they've been losing. And not that Robstown is somebody, but I figured right now by this time, Robstown would have got it together, and they're a bigger school and get the win, but they didn't, you know. I just Robstown just they haven't had a great season, a football season, and I can't even remember when. And I hate to say that because I know those boys go out there and practice hard just like everyone else, and they probably give it all out on the field, but some way they got to find a way to dig deep and try to get a win, because nobody wants to have a winless season, and like I said, for the boys, I know it's tough. It's tough to take in, uh, but they just got to figure it out, man.
Johnny?
This one was a hard one. I remember I couldn't decide which way or the other because they both hadn't had that win yet, and they both haven't really scored that many points. So I basically did just a little average of both teams and just went with who scored the most points per game. We're 12 points against 7. I was like, you know what, I'll go with Carrizo. That was my thing on that. But man, Robstown going down with another goose egg is not looking too good over there. That's a back-to-back game. Because TM shut them out last week, so this is not looking too good and stuff like that. So hopefully, they start turning things a little around, at least get a little offense going and stuff like that.
I think that's what shocked me is that with the Caricio Springs, you thought that Robstown could at least, be competitive with the offense, but they were not. And so, like Tony says, I'm sure the boys out there, they put their time in and practice, but it's hard when you're getting beat every week to stay motivated, to stay hyped. You want to the next week. You can quickly, when you're losing in this manner, you can just go through the motions. I think, I never played high school football. I was a basketball player, but I think it goes both ways. When you play basketball, I remember when I was in high school, playing ball was we won a game. I couldn't wait to get back in that game and practice to get to that next game. But if you're losing and you're losing, at some point you just go through the motions. You just I'm here, I'm playing, but you're really not giving it 100%. And Rossdown's in our district. I like to see him be more competitive. Win or lose, I mean, you want to win, but you want to be competitive, and score some points and stuff. And so it's quickly getting to a place where it's going to be really hard. They're going to get into that district with Sinton, Ingleside, and Rockport. West Oso, is coming on, so it's going to be really, really hard for them to be competitive with these teams. So hopefully they can get something going, before the season ends. But right now, it does not look that way. And I don't know exactly what the problem is down there. I haven't seen a game. I probably won't see Robstown till Rockport plays them. But hopefully they can get something going, man, because I don't like to see those zeros every time, every week when we're talking about these games. So hopefully, they can become a little bit more competitive before we get in the district. They might have one more game before they get in the district. So we'll see how they do next week. Game 4 on our schedule was John Paul II against the Ingleside Mustangs. The three of us picked Ingleside, and they took the win 40-21. It was a big win. I wanted to see Ingleside get a big win before they got in the district. And I saw John Paul. It's a smaller school, but I saw them 2 years ago, I believe it was, and I saw them play against I think it was TAP, and they were pretty impressive. They have some athletes out there 2 years ago. I'd never really seen them play, so they were pretty impressive when I saw them. So this is a big win for Ingleside to me. I wanted to see them win a big game. I didn't want it to be close, and they did that. So I was really impressed with Ingleside and the manner that they won this game. Johnny, I'll go to you. Were you impressed with the amount of points that Ingleside was able to score on John Paul?
Impressed? I'm not too sure about impressed. Again, we're going into week 1 with John Paul. So um, could have been little mishaps in there, for them and stuff like that. But it was, Ingleside does have something going over there. Their only loss is that team game. So it's not like they're having, an okay season. You're now what 4-1, so you're looking good. You're looking good going into district. Something positive. It might be not the big, maybe like big wins for big schools, but you go into district with a winning record. That's gonna motivate your team somewhat. So he gets the people in town behind them and stuff like that. So um, Ingleside could be somebody in the district now.
Tony, I'll go to you next here. I was listening. I listened to other podcasts during the weekday, and early on, before I think it was like week 1, um, I was hearing some of the guys, some of the podcasts that I listened to, saying, "Be careful with Ingleside," because of course Rockford and Sidon should be first and second. But I remember this guy saying, "Listen, if you don't come with your A game, this Ingleside team can beat a Rockford and Sidon if they're not careful. I mean, they're sneaky like that. This is a good team, this year." And so, watching them play, they were winning. They lost to TM, but some of the games that they were winning, they weren't winning by much. We were really kind of surprised when, that game between Aransas was so close. We thought Ingleside would blow them out. So I wanted to see, Tony, a big win from Ingleside before we got in the district. And this is the win that they got. They scored 40 points. They held John Paul to 21. So that offense it's clicking. It's getting better. And as Johnny said, they're 4-1. They win next week and they'll be 5-1 going into district. You're sitting pretty, man. That's a motivation for your boys, and it's huge for Ingleside because you want those boys to be motivated. So this team could be very dangerous as we get into the district in 2 weeks. Tony, what's your take on Ingleside scoring 40 points on John Paul?
Well, I think I'm with Johnny. I don't think it's really that impressive. I mean, it shows that their offense can score, but I mean, if you think about it, they gave up 21 points to a team that hasn't played since last year. And they only play in the taps, and I don't know how competitive that is, but John Paul, they were decent last year. I remember that, and then 2 years ago they were better. Uh, but I'm not gonna doubt Ingleside for the season. I'm not gonna doubt them for district. Uh, but I think they still got something. I think they still got something to prove because they really haven't beat anybody. You know anybody big. They beat Ranzis barely in overtime. Was it Carrizo? I mean, they really haven't had like wins against tough opponents, and then their only loss was to TM. I don't know how well TM's going to do this year, but they haven't done well in the past. So I think they still got something to prove. They allowed 21 points on the defense. So till they fix that, they're doing good. They're doing good, and the coaches are doing a good job. The boys. I mean, their confidence level got to be up there. And I hope it is. I hope they do get better because I like to see those really tough games. You know what I mean? I like to see those games where it's going back and forth, but your team wins. You know what I mean? I like that. I think those kind of games prepare you for the postseason. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the offense is gonna be good for Ingleside this year. We've seen that. The question is gonna be the defense. They're gonna go as far as the defense can carry them. So, giving up 21 points, I guess. Yeah, I didn't see the game. It might be a little concerning, but the offense can score obviously, and so I'm with you, Tony. I want to see them get better. I love to see. I love to see these teams in district bring their A game because I think it makes our Rockport Pirates bring their A game, and it's real competitive, and of course we want to see our Pirates win at the end of the game. But yeah, this was huge. I wanted Ingleside. I wanted to see if they were capable of winning a big game, not getting out of this close game, and they were able to do that this week. So next week we'll see what happens. District starts in 2 weeks, and it looks to be that it'll be a race between these three teams. I don't know. I know in the Valley, I think it's just Raymondville
Yeah, that's
that's
what I heard.
playing. I know Rio Hondo is out. Port Isabel, I think, is out. So I don't know if that just leaves Raymondville. I know they're going to start playing here pretty soon. I heard the Raymondville head coach come out this past week and talk about their situation down there. So I would imagine that Raymondville will get some games in, and then they'll if they're the only team, they'll get that playoff spot, I believe, and they'll go on. And Raymondville has been a team that is pretty scary. They get
Yeah,
into that third round too, like Rockport and Sid. And so
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But Raymondville's no pushover, so it's going to be very interesting. When they come out, from what I understand, they're still going to play, but they're the only team of the three from the Valley
So
that's still in.
Portisville is out.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Portisville
Yeah,
is
yeah,
out. I know
yeah,
Rio Hondo was. I wasn't sure about Portisville.
yeah. And
yeah.
they just came out this week.
Yeah, so Raymondville will be in. Hopefully, they can get some games, under their belt before the playoffs. And hey, Raymondville's always there, So we'll see how that plays out for us. But it's a great win for Ingleside. We'll see what they do next week. 4-1. It's something to be proud of. You look at that record; it does hype up the boys to go in next week. And if they win next week, they're 5-1 going into district, man. So Ingleside's looking pretty, man. We'll see what happens. Game 5 on our schedule. It was a Thursday night game. It was the Beeville Trojans and the Moody Trojans. So it was Battle of the Trojans. The three of us picked Beeville, and we were wrong. Beeville lost a very close game to Moody, 43-46. We didn't know much about Moody coming into the season because this was their first game, right? So we were just kind of basically going on what they had done in the past. But this was now I was impressed with Moody's win over Beeville. We had seen Beeville; they had lost some games, but we knew and we had talked about Beeville. This is going to be a team. I think they're going to be fighting for that, playoff spot, the fourth playoff spot. So we think we kind of thought it'd be between them and Alice. We don't know what Alice is going to do just yet, but we know they're that talk about that playoff spot, that really tough district. So Moody surprises everybody and wins. And I watched a little bit of those highlights. They got some speed they can throw. So Johnny, I'll go to you first, man. I mean, impressive.
Man, you told me this with the Friday night game. I was like, no way. I didn't even pay attention. Uh, I was to me that was a shocker. I mean, a huge shocker. I mean, Bevo's a good team, and they've been playing some tough games, and so all that games under their belt. That's what I was going with. And again, I was going with Moody's first game, first week, and we look at them as like not that competitive team, but we got to think about it. They're playing in the district where like Victoria East, Victoria West, the Vets, and who's the
Yeah.
other one? Flower Bluff and Miller. You know, it's not like they're playing in a district they're gonna like get in easily or take some wins easily. So that's a very tough district to get some wins underneath their belt. So it's Moody can I guess can be somebody. If they're out, if they're playing other teams. That's just a tough district to play in to get into the playoffs with for anybody. Even those teams, those top teams are competing for that fourth spot. So um, maybe we doubted Moody, because they get the 355 total yards against Beeville,
Yeah.
so uh, again, we underestimated them, I guess, because they haven't been competitive, but you're competing against one of the toughest districts in the whole state, so it's Moody. I guess Moody can be somebody out there.
Well, Tony, and to Johnny's point, right? If anything, Moody looks like they'll be competitive. You won't just go in there and run all over. You're gonna have to come out and play this team because they've got some weapons. They can throw. They've got some speed on the outside. Both teams gave up big numbers on defense, so their defense was really non-existent in this game. Moody giving up 43 to Beeville, Beeville giving up 46 to Moody. So the defense, for whatever reason, was not there. But on offense, they were both explosive. It probably came down to just 3 points and Moody taking the win. But yeah, at the least Moody will be competitive. It seems like in a really tough district. So what's your thoughts on the game? I know you were probably shocked too because you picked Beeville as Johnny and I did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm impressed, and I'm impressed for a couple of reasons. I'm impressed because, like to Johnny's point, they're in a tough district the last few years, and it's hard to get a win. It's hard to get a playoff spot in that district. But just, I mean, even when you look at the highlights from last year, every time I watch the Blitz, they really haven't, they had some close games, but a lot of the games they just got really blown out. So to come in and beat Beeville, even if it was only by 3 points, I mean Beeville's played some tough opponents. Beeville's got a couple wins. Uh, I think Moody is got something, and I think I'm gonna watch them. I'm gonna watch them and see how they do because I think it's impressive. Even though it's only a 3 point win, I think it's impressive because it's their first week versus a team that's already played 4 weeks. So hats off to Moody.
Well, too, Tony, like you always said, Miller, I mean, Moody had to play 4 quarters to beat Beeville. So they played 4 quarters, because that's the only way you would have beaten Beeville. They started possibly strong, and they definitely finished strong. So Moody was able to put in 4 quarters, it seems like, to have gotten this victory over Moody. So that's impressive. Let's see if they can build on that next week because the district's coming really quickly for Moody, and they're in a very tough district. So at the least they'll be competitive. I hope. The
Yeah.
next game will be our sixth game on our schedule, and that we had the Miller Bucks, and they're gonna play CC Veterans Memorial. Now this was Veterans Memorial's first game. And the three of us picked vets, and they won easy 57-35. Tony, listen, Miller's, they were ranked, they lost to Rockport, and then, they lose to Vets. And Vets scores 57 points on on Miller's. What's your take on this game? Talk a little bit about Miller too. We knew Betts was going to be impressive. I mean, we talked about it on our prediction. You know, it's the first game, but we thought they have athletes over there. Neither of us on this podcast had any concerns that Betts wouldn't be ready.
Yeah.
We talked about that, right? But and they showed it. You know, they're ready to rock and roll. They should win this district. They're predicted to win this district. Talk a little bit about Miller now going down 2 games. Are they overrated, Tony, in your
I,
mind, or
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I mean, they were. It was neck and neck at halftime. You know what I mean? Uh, Miller lost to two great teams. I think Rockport is a great team, and they lost to Rockport in a close game. And then in Veterans Memorial, you know, like I said, you know, they're not going to be one of those teams that's going to have a bad season. You know what I mean? That's where the kids want to go. Like we said last week, you know, they're going to have athletes always at that school. Now, in a couple of years, when they build that new Carroll High School, we'll see what happens. Because I know they're going to have that new school up in a year or two. So, but as of right now, you know, I pick Vets because I think that you know, one, they want to settle that tie from last year with the 1-1 against Miller. And I know Miller wanted it too, but Miller graduated some folks last year, and you know they got a younger team than Vets, and then Vets just, you know, they just got the pool of players to choose from, and that's why I went with Vets. But Miller should definitely not keep their head down. You know, you lose to a team like Vets. I mean, shit, they scored 35 points on the Veterans Memorial Eagles. I mean, that's what they got to take in, that they scored 35 points, because a team like that, I mean, that's doing something. Sticking with them at halftime, that's doing something. You know what I mean? You got to find a way to play 4 quarters, and I think that's probably what happened here, because they let the second half get away from them. So Miller should definitely not put their heads down, losing the last 2 games that they lost, because you know Rockport lost to the runners up from state last year. So you know they played a good team in Rockport, and I think Rockport still is underrated. That's what I think, which is fine. You know, but they should, you know, they hung with it for the most part, and I don't think that Miller's out. I'm not gonna count Miller out right now.
hey, Johnny? You know, it seems like that defense for Miller is got to get better because in their district they've got Calhoun coming, they've got Cal Allen coming, they've got some really good offenses that they're going to see in district, and we all know that their offense is going to score points. That's not a question. But that defense to me has got to get better because these offenses. I mean, we still don't know what Alice has. We haven't seen them. We know Beaver's got a good. They got a good offense. You're going to have Cal Allen coming in, and you're going to have Port Lavaca coming. These are offenses that can score points. You know, so I think, you know, I don't know, they got to fix that defense and get that defense ready. But you know, we weren't surprised obviously with Vets beating Miller. But what was your take? Miller's lost. Yeah, they lost. Rockport's a good team, and Vets is a good team, but you've lost two. Does that play in your mind? Hey, we've lost two, or do you just say, hey, we lost to two good teams? Let's continue to roll. Are you concerned with these two losses, back-to-back losses that Miller has had? Because the defense, Rockport scored 44, okay, and now Bet scores 57. Two good teams, but are you concerned with that Miller defense giving up those points?
Yeah, that's a big concern, and I'm starting a little worried about, Miller might be just the overrated team this year. Yeah, we are a great team. We scored that many points. The Vets, of course, are a great team. Yeah, them two have always had that shootout back and forth. So um, it is a big concern, going into district. It's not it's not the way you want to go into it. Especially a tough district like that. Um, it's it's there. I read a little bit of the the highlights and stuff like that as far as the play by play at the end. Miller did put a little fight at the end. The score might have showed it a little different. They got it down to 51 to 51 to, what was their final? 51 to 35.
35.
And 51-35, that's just two possessions. And they got it back all the way down to the 1 yard line again from scoring. And they had a fourth down and they didn't convert. Just if they would have converted that, that would have been a totally different ball game. Granted, they would have got a 2 point conversion, but they didn't convert that, and they ended up stopping Memorial again. Um, but they turned it back on downs again. So they were making a little fight. Um, but the thing that popped their balloon was an 80-yard interception return for a touchdown,
Yeah.
and that popped it right there. That was pretty much it. They tried to drive it again, but it at that time it didn't matter. You're 3 points down, 3 scores down. Um, so they didn't put a little fight at that fourth quarter, and I did read a little bit about them having a little too much aggression, but this time it was called on them. They had a kicking call on them, a personal foul. All this
Oh,
was happening
really?
in the fourth quarter. This was happening. They had a late
Wow.
hit on the quarterback, a personal foul that was called on them. Uh, so things started like getting out of hand mentally for Miller, you know, and this time it was not going to their favor and stuff like that as previous. So um, when you get down, you get mentally beat like that, and the calls are going against you, you're gonna fall apart in that fourth quarter. Your team, the momentum completely changes. I mean, the crowd goes the other way, and yeah, it hurt them. Those personal fouls at the end too.
And I always think that's a lack of focus on the team. And I thought you start seeing some of that frustration because at the start of the season, you're ranked. That's big for the players. And then you come in week 1, 2, and you're scoring 60 something. I mean, you're on a roll, man. You're 60 plus in your first 2 weeks. So you're like, hey, I'm unstoppable. Then you come into Rockport, and Rockport beats you. A team that, to Miller, I'm thinking, we should lose this game. And it was competitive. I mean, they were, it was, they never got a lead on Rockport. It was close. Rockport pulled it out, right? So that kind of brings you down. Then you go into the bets, and then, like you're saying, Johnny, you're seeing these type of plays, these penalties that ordinarily you didn't see week 1 and 2. So there might be some frustration building on these players as well because they're not accustomed to losing. And one thing that I was talking to a guy who was saying, Miller was ahead of Rockport, and this is their offense. Even if they're ahead, they're going to continue to throw. They're not going to, be conservative. Okay, we're going to run the ball. They've got it back, and we're going to. This is a passing game, whether they're winning by 40 or they're winning by 3. They're going to continue to throw the ball and take those chances with their quarterback. And in Rockport's game, Rockport intercepted and gave them an opportunity with that. But I think it was like 3 minutes left or so around there. Rockport came up with that big interception, drove down the field, and we won the game. Um, and then there was that fumble as they were coming back. So Miller can strike really fast. But when you're passing that much, they pass, I don't know, maybe 80% of the time. You play those great defenses. There's also a high probability that you're going to be turning the ball over. So as you can score quickly, you can also turn that ball over because you're putting, that quarterback. He's got to be very accurate. He's throwing 80% of the time. So this is one thing the guy said. I don't think they're going to go back in when they got a lead, and this offense is going to continue to throw. They're going to win or lose with the throws. So we've seen 2 weeks now, and like you were talking about now, where this team kind of lost focus in this Vets game. It was close at halftime. Then all these penalties, and like you said, it was all in the fourth quarter. That turns the whole game around, the momentum. And he said 2 possessions ain't bad. They do that 4th and 1, and then they get the 2 point conversion. You're in the game. I don't know how much time was left, but you're in the game. You're feeling good. You got a chance. And with Miller's offense, it doesn't take very much for them to score. They've got that big play capability, right? But then you don't get it. Then you get these penalties really throws you out, and then so the game gets away from you, and they end up scoring 50+ points. So we'll see what Miller's got next week. I'm not going to turn in. I'm not going to say that they're not. I'm not giving up on Miller because they're explosive, but they've got to work on that defense. That defense, they're only going to go as far as that defense can carry. I mean, right now, people are really scoring big points on this defense. They've got to find a way, to contain some of these guys. That defense has got to get better, in my opinion, if they want to go a couple of rounds in the playoffs. Game 7 on our schedule was the Battle of the Wildcats. It was Grady Point and Wildcats against Carolina Wildcats. The 3 of us picked Cal Allen. They're number 6, Cal Allen, and of course they won 35-7. So this was I kind of figured Cal Allen would win. GP I've heard great reporting from different people that from Portland that this year Great Portland's got some talent. They've got some young underclassmen supposed to be really good, and they're in that 5A with Flower Bluff and Moody and all these teams. So that's going to be a good district. But I kind of figured Cal Allen had been playing. They were rolling. I didn't see Cal Allen losing this game, and they didn't. But Tony, I'll go to you first. Give me your thoughts on the Battle of the Wildcats, Cal Allen and Great Portland.
Like I said, the Battle of the Wildcats is always a big game for those two teams. Cal Allen and GP have been going at it for a long time. Johnny said back then when he was playing, and pretty sure even before that. I didn't see Cal Allen losing the game, and GP just really hasn't been that impressive the last few years. I don't know why, because they normally are a competitive team, and they have been. But with what happened in the last couple of years, I'm not really sure. But it's hard to say how good GP will be because they play Cal Allen. You know what I mean? Cal Allen only scored 35. Cal Allen's a team where they're capable of scoring a whole bunch of points. So and it doesn't really say a lot about GP. I think it's still too early to say. Cal Allen's had some games. Cal Allen's had some losses to learn from, and they've had some big wins. So we'll see what happens. GP, first game coming back and holding Cal Allen to 35. I think that's something you could build off of. Kind of like Miller losing to Rockport and Vets. I mean, they got something to build off of now. I mean, it's better to take those losses now, early in the season, so that you can build on those as the season progresses and into the postseason. So I think they're humbling losses, and that's the way they should take it. So.
Hey Johnny, I'm with Tony. It's just it's first game for Portland. I don't I mean to start the season late and then to start the season with Cal Allen, not very good. But they did only score 35 points. I didn't really see the game, so but I don't think that defines GP's season. This is just one win. This is just one loss. They're going to be able to go back and look at the film and see what they got to work on. So it may help them as they get into the district. Cal Allen is in the 4A Division One, and they're in a tough district, but so is GP with 5A Division One. So, what was your thoughts on Portland? I know the three of us didn't think Portland had a chance to beat Cal Allen, but I don't know if you saw any of the highlights. 35-7. What can GP take out of this loss as they move forward in their season?
All three of us agreed on the same thing. For Cal Allen only scoring 35 points on GP's first game and stuff like that. So it was. I was expecting a bigger score by Cal, and especially how long they've been playing, and Cal's been known to score pretty high points. Um, but yeah, I think it's a positive thing for GP to look forward to. They didn't get really blown out. Um, their touchdown did come in the fourth quarter, whether it was against second string or not. I guess that's a little positive. You finally got your score in, but I wouldn't. I think GP could build on this. I would look at it that way. You didn't get blown out like Cal Allen. Um, like all y'all said, that 35 points didn't really impress me. So GP can be somebody, and it's time will tell. Time will tell.
I looked at that GP district, and I to myself I had predicted that 5A Division One here in the Coastal Bend area, but I see GP as a playoff team. Not a top one because you've got Vets and you've got Flower Bluff in that. But the last two spots, I think GP can get in there. They'll be playing the Victoria schools. I still don't know how good those Victoria East and West schools are. But around here, with Ray and Moody, well, now we don't know about Moody, right? But I did predict early on that GP I think has a very good chance of being in the postseason. I like to see him in the postseason. It's been a long time. GP's always been a powerhouse in this area. They've got a great coach in Coach Rhodes. I mean, he's won a championship at Cameron Yo, and I think that's where he wanted. And so we know that he's a good coach. I heard they brought in some new coaches. I don't know how true that is this year in GP. But I'd like to see GP back in the playoffs in this area. You know, it'd be nice to see him get back in the postseason to see if they can make some noise. So hopefully they can make one of the playoff spots this year. But it's still early on. So lost to Cal Allen. I wouldn't read much into it. It was their first game of the season. They started late, so we'll see next week who their opponent is and whether they can get their first win of the season or not. Game 8 on our schedule was Goliad Tigers, Edna Cowboys, and the three of us picked Edna, and they did win 15-8, kind of close. Tony, Goliad, not the same team that we saw 2 years ago. They haven't been very impressive this year. These are two teams that we don't follow week in and week out, but we thought it'd be a good matchup. 15-8 it was. What's your take on Edna beating, or I should say, what's your take on Goliad? Did they lose? I mean, Edna's pretty good this year, are they not?
Yeah, they are, and Edna's faced tough opponents. I mean, they both hadn't won a game up until this past Friday. You know, but they both played some tough teams. So I think the positive is that kind of like what I said about Miller and kind of what I said about GP is they're playing tough opponents now, and I think that that's gonna get them more ready for the postseason, and I think that's probably what Goliad intends for, because you don't pick you don't have a preseason set up the way you do unless you're thinking about the postseason already, and I think Goliad has been a pretty decent football team, the last few years, and a really good football team 2 years ago. I know they were ranked in the top 10. Uh, so it didn't impress. I mean, it didn't surprise me that Goliad gave Edna a fight. Edna's usually a pretty decent school, uh, but close game. I knew it would be. And Edna scored in the fourth quarter because it was a pretty close game up to that point. So no, I think like I said, I don't think Goliad is a team you count out right now. I think they're a playoff team, and we'll see what happens.
Johnny?
Well, that was kind of hard to pick on that one. Both of them were winless. Um, I thought Edna had faced the more tougher teams, as far as who they played against than
Yeah.
compared to Goliad. So that's kind of how I went with Edna. Um, Low scoring game, very low scoring game. Um, I didn't know what to expect off of that one. Um, there wasn't no many total. There wasn't many what do you call it, total yards in that game. Shocking. It's hard to get a win with 102 total yards. You know, 15 points, 102 yards. That's. I don't know how to say that. I don't see many teams winning 102 yards on the 15 points. So Goliad, Goliad did put up 200 yards though, 278 yards. So it's it's kind of, I don't know how that game went really. I really don't. I really don't. I kind of want to know what the highlights were, but I didn't see nothing on at that as far as that goes. But Goliad score, making that many yards, that's something. That is something to build on.
It is. Sometimes you gain all these yards, and the scoreboard doesn't reflect the yards that you got. But still, in a loss like this, obviously your defense played really good, giving up 15 points to Edna. But then if you're the coach, you look at Goliad and you say, listen, look how many yards we gained. So we moved the ball on this defense on a pretty good Edna team. So that's definitely something to build on. And moving forward, I think Goliad, they're always somebody that you have to contend with in their district. They're not somebody that you can just wipe out. They're always going to be the talk. They're always going to be a playoff a team, or you're going to be talking about Goliad possibly making the playoffs. So we'll see this year if they can in their district. But right, the yards that they gain, you can definitely build on that and look at that. Look, we just didn't punch this ball in, but we were able to move the ball, whether if it's on the ground or passing. So that's something to definitely build on, and we'll see where they go next week. We'll probably be talking about their game next week as well. Um, the game 9 on our schedule is the Aransas Pass Panthers and the Palacios Sharks. Now, Palacios beat Aransas 69-7. Um, Johnny, I'll tell you what the hell's going on with Aransas Pass. 69. You give up. You give up. I mean, I had to look at that score like a few times. 69-7.
Um, when you're on point, I think you could score that many on AP. I mean, I'm still thinking about week one about AP. I know it was week one for them. Um, I don't see them having that offense whatsoever. And if you're turning it over on 3 downs and out, 3 downs and out, 3 downs and out, a team's going to destroy you that way. Um, I was expecting that from Rockport to do the same thing, but we had so many mishaps ourselves. Um, I just don't see Aransas having that line. I just don't see them having that line. Um, and Aransas, they went in 2-2, but their only wins has been against Carrizo and Falfurrias, and they're not too impressive. I I don't know how they did this week, but I know they were both winless themselves, so and Palacios had played Tidehaven, so Rights consolidated. So uh that was my picking on that was Palacios, but hey, I didn't expect 69 points either. 40 is good enough, 49, but 69 is up there. And that's a lot of points to score in Aransas. Um, I don't know what's going on in Aransas, what's going on their defense, but 69 is quite a bit to give up. So I I can't say it's too much on the defense. Like I said, if your offense ain't moving that ball, you know, it's not going to help the defense. You got to keep that defense off that field. They're going to just wear out that defense.
Hey Tony, AP's got some problems, man. I mean, 69 to 7. That's, I mean, I you got well, it's just one game we lost. We'll be back. I think it's going to be hard for them to rebound. Now I may be wrong, but 69-7, man, that's a boat whipping. I thought Aransas would be better than that. I don't know how good Palacios is. I've never really seen him play or really seen their highlights. But 69-7, I was like Johnny. I didn't think Aransas would win this game, but I didn't think Palacios would score 60 some points. It's almost like they were just running up and down the field just on their own. I don't know where the Aransas pass defense was. Obviously the offense didn't show up, but the defense was just couldn't stop anybody if you let them score 69 in the game. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on Aransas pass in this loss?
Well, this is what I'm gonna say. Ramses Pass is what are they? 2-2, 2-3, 2-3. Think of the teams they lost to. They lost to Rockport. They lost to Ingleside. Now losing to Palacios. Their losses are to some pretty decent football teams. You know what I mean? Now, do they need to score some points? They do. They do need to start scoring some points, and their defense needs to start quit allowing so many points. But again, Aransas Pass has 3 losses to 3 pretty decent programs. So I think they got something to build on. I'm not going to count Aransas Pass out yet. They got a pretty tough district themselves. They got a pretty tough district themselves. So, we will see what happens. Getting into the playoffs is kind of far right now for them, just because of who they got. But we'll see. And like I said, you can't take away that the teams they lost to. Ingleside's 4-1. Rockport's 2-1. Palacios. I don't know what Palacios is. See, let me see. Palacios is. I think they have they're 3-1. I mean, they lost to some teams that show that they can do some stuff and score some points. So, Aransas Pass, they just need to build off of it. For their players, they need to keep their heads up. They, like I said about Miller. I mean, they're humbling losses. They're not against teams that they should have beat. So, we'll see what happens.
Hey guys, I'm going to tell you this. You know, I, this loss to the Rams. you can be competitive. You give up 69 points, man. That says a lot to me. Um, you know, I don't think. I hope I'm wrong on this, but I'm very concerned about Aransas. I don't think they're going to do much in district. I hope I'm wrong, like I said, but this 69-7, that's a huge, huge loss. And I would hope if I was playing football and I lost 69-7, I'd be on that football field that night trying to get better. That's just we didn't see that coming. If you're playing because you're turning the ball over, that's a concern. But 69 points to give up to a team, and I don't know how good Palacios is, man, but some of these teams that lose, they don't give up 69 points. You know, some of these teams that lose and play to a ranked team, and so let's say we're a team that playing a ranked team, we lose. But man, when you lose by six, you let somebody score 69 points. Some of these unranked teams play hard; they can still compete. They may lose the game, they can compete. But Aransas Pass just went and gave up 69 points, and they only scored 7 themselves. I think that's a big concern for Aransas. I hope they can turn around. Their district is not going to get any easier. And, just if you're a player, you just gave up 69 points. You come back next week, you're either going to come back hungry and want to prove yourself next week, or you're just going to, keep getting further down. I don't know, but they haven't been impressive to me. They did lose to 3 good programs, but still giving up 69 points to me is a concern. And we'll see what they do next week. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to do much in district.
Hey, Sinton gave up 64, 65 points to Miller. I mean, and they've had 2 wins since then. So
True, but that offense.
This is where you you look yourself in the mirror and say we got to do something about it.
But I'll tell you this. But one thing that if I'm a player, what gives me hope is that if I'm on defense, is that my offense can score some points. So if I'm to your point, Tony, if I'm in sitting and we're giving up points, but I know if I'm a cornerback or a safety, right? I'm thinking, but my offense can score. So that's good. I mean, we got to get together, but we know our offense can score. If you're a Rams pass defense, what are you saying about your offense? I mean, because if your offense doesn't score a lot of points, eventually your defense starts to get worn down, and it's emotional. You just start thinking, "I'm gonna come out here." It wears on you. So I understand what you're saying, but man, I'm telling you, um, we saw Rams pass against Rockwood to give. They haven't gotten much better since week 1, and so it's a concern. You're fixing to go into district. Again, I don't know how good Palacios is, but just giving up 69 points. And that offense, to me, not being able to score points either is kind of concerning to me. We'll see what happens, but I think Aransas is going to struggle in that district. Game 10 on our schedule was the number 2 ranked team, Refugio Bobcats. They played the Taft Greyhounds. Of course, we all picked Refugio, and Refugio, of course, won 41-0. So Taft was unable to score. Johnny, what's your take on this? We knew Refugio would win. We knew this was going to be a big challenge for Taft. So Taft's now dropped 2 in a row. I heard this guy on a podcast. He kind of follows the Refugio game, and before this game was played, he basically gave Taft no respect. I know that last week when Refugio played, he said that I think after the first quarter he took out most of the starters.
Yeah.
So he was talking about the fact that these starters got to play because they got to get into rhythm when they get into the playoffs. But I thought Taft would be a little bit more competitive on the offense. They were not. So now Taft has dropped. They've started really good, and now they've dropped 2 games. And the offense has kind of gotten stagnant. They have not looked as impressive. What's your take on Refugio beating Taft, but Taft not being able to score?
Well, I had picked Refugio just because of Refugio. Like I said, the previous game of Taft, who did Taft lose against the previous week?
Kennedy,
and it was out of hand, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they didn't score on that one either. I think it was like
they scored, but
33 to like 13 or something. 30 something to 13. I think it was
33 something. And I had said that if Taft would have had that, I guess that score the other way around pretty much. I would have had a little maybe thought about Taft pulling that one out, but Taft didn't finish off that game, strong. So they never really were in that game. So that kind of disappointed me. And but going into this game, Refugio is just Refugio, and but I was very disappointed that Taft did not score again. That's I noticed in the previous game they didn't score in the second half. They get shut out an entire game this game. So they're at 6 quarters without scoring a point. And that's concerning me. But at one time they were the high scoring offense, and all of a sudden, they're starting to play some teams that are actual real teams, I guess. Um, so can they compete against competitive teams? That's my thought on that. Because 6 quarters without scoring, that's a long time.
To an offense, Johnny, that the first 3 weeks was almost unstoppable, right? They were
Right.
rolling. They were. I mean, you just thought like, whoa, these guys can score. Even if they face a tough team, they'll be able to score some points. That does speak volumes. And in 6 quarters, you have not been able to score. So what's happened to this offense? As explosive as they were, and you may play a Woodsboro. Some of these teams that you should be convincing, and they did. But then you play these tough teams, and you want to see where your program is. You want to see if you can compete, and that didn't happen against Refugio. I'll go back to the George West game. George West lost to Refugio, but they were competitive in that game for the most part, and they scored some points. So in this district, we picked Taft, or I picked Taft to win the district, and I still think that they will. But Oldham now is going to start picking up steam. You've got to get that offense going again, and finding a way to score. Because we'll see what they do next week. But it is, Tony, a little bit disappointing that Taft wasn't able to score a touchdown or get anything going on offense. What's your thoughts on the Refugio Taft game? Because I know you
Yeah.
picked Taft also to win the district. Is that correct?
Yes, I did pick Taft to win the district, but I'm not concerned about the loss to Refugio. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's a humbling loss. It's a loss that you get in the beginning of the season. Before district starts, and let your team know where you're actually at. I know they had a loss last week as well, but I mean it's hard to prepare for a team like Refugio. I mean, everyone in Texas probably knows that Refugio can score points, at will. At will. I've seen them have a 14-14 halftime and end up winning 62-14 and after the second half. So Refugio is that kind of team that's capable of doing that. 41 points to 41-0. I mean, I did expect Taft to score. I didn't think the game would be close, but I expected Taft to score just because of the amount of points they've been scoring in the previous games. But we'll see what happens. I mean, Refugio. I mean, Refugio's Refugio, and until they start facing tougher opponents, it's hard to say what their postseason will look like because I don't think they've been battle tested at all this season so far. I mean, in the past they've played like Shiner and schools like that in the preseason, and they didn't really do that this year. You know what I mean? So and if they're taking the starters out in the first quarter, man, they really really got some things to think about if they want to be ready for the postseason. If I'm a Refugio fan, that's what I'm thinking. How do we get prepared for the postseason? Because there's some tough 2A schools out there. There's some tough. I mean, they got top prospects in 2A. Don't take nothing away from their classification. There's a lot of many top prospects that come out of 2A. So, and they're all Central and North Texas. So, Refugio got some things to do too if they want to be ready for the postseason.
Yeah, if I'm the coach, guys from TAF, I'm just, hey, we just wanted to kind of pick. We just got. I guess you wanted to see where your team is because most teams in the Coastal Bend couldn't beat Refugio. So if you're looking at say 41-0, it's real concerning that we didn't score, but we'll look at the film and we'll see what we need to do. That was a great defense. The Taf's probably in their district not going to face. Oh, I know they're not going to face a defense like Refugio. So it gives TAF some insight on what they need to work on to score. So playing Refugio was good. If I'm the coach, I'm telling the guys, look, it's not no big deal. I mean, we lost. This is gonna prepare us. It's gonna get us what we need to work on as we get into the district. So yeah, I'm not reading much into it either, Tony. It's a loss, no big deal. It's not going to define our season, but I was looking for them to at least score maybe 2 touchdowns, and they weren't unable to do that. But outside of that, I still picked Taft to win this district. I think they're that good. Their offense is explosive. They've had 2 weeks where they haven't been able to score very many points. So hopefully this next week they'll get right back on track. This is still a good football team, and I think they're going to be okay come district time. Uh, Game 11 on our schedule was the Toloso Midway Warriors and the going up against the Ray Texans. This was Ray's first game of the season. We all picked Toloso Midway and they won 21-7. Great win for TM as they continue to roll. They're going to be in a very tough district. I don't know what they'll be able to do once they get in the district. Just every week for Toloso Midway is going to be a tough game. We'll see if they can get a spot into the playoffs. But what a great win! Ray really hasn't been great the last couple of seasons. So I don't know what we make of this win for TM, but it is a win. So Johnny, what was your take on the TM 21-7 win over Ray?
Well, again, the Ray hasn't been that football athletic program. So TM competes, and they compete in a good district. So and that was easily me picking TM over Ray. It was like that. Can I say that TM finished off the whole game the way they should have? Because it was 0-0 at the half.
Yeah.
So Ray did hold TM for a little while, So maybe Ray needs to learn how to finish off the 4 quarters, So it was hard to tell on that one. Did one finish it off, or one didn't want to? So that 0-0, that was something for Ray to look forward to, for being game one for them, So can they finish off that way? Their defense might be there. Again, it is TM, so we'll see how Ray does. They could be their defense can be somebody. They didn't get blown out. In week one, they didn't get blown out.
That's something to build on. Tony, what was your take on the TM 21-7 win over Ray?
I'll say that it's not bad for Ray, uh, for their first game. 0-0 halftime score. Toloso Midway scores 14 points in the third quarter. Ray doesn't score any, and then they trade scores in the fourth quarter. So, I don't know if it's one of those where the defense started breaking down, because I mean they gave up most all of their points in the second half. But for their first game, not to get beat, not to get blown out, I think that's a good way to see what you got. So if I could say it that way.
Well, guys, I'll tell you this: they're both going to be in tough districts. TM's in that 4A Division One with Cal Allen, Alice, Beeville, and Port Lavaca. So it's going to be tough for them to grab one of those spots. They're going to have to be really good week in and week out. Ray's in that 5A Division One district with Flower Love, Betts, Miller. So they're going to be in it tough. They're going to have to be good week in and week out. So it's going to be really good when we get in the district to see what these two teams can do, and if they can win enough to get one of those playoff spots. But I think TM is getting a little better every week. They probably got the biggest offensive line in the Coastal Bend. I mean, I've seen these guys. They're huge. There's some big boys they got up there on that front line. So hopefully they can be competitive. Both teams can. But again, they're in a very tough district, and it's going to be tough for both of them to get a playoff spot. But every Friday, anybody can be beat. We always say this on the podcast: you can be beaten on any Friday. I mean, just because Refugio is really a powerhouse, but they're beatable. Every team is beatable. You put a game plan together, you get your boys ready, and you go out there. Injuries happen. You don't want to see that. That's part of the game. Turnovers. There's so many things that can happen in the game. That's why we talk about this podcast. 4 quarters is so important. You don't lose it in the first or the third quarter. You have to play 4 quarters. And if you can put 4 quarters together, no matter who you play, and you play tough for 4 quarters, you give yourself a chance to be there in the end, to make a big play. So you never know with Coloso Midway what they can probably do in this district, and maybe they can pick up that last playoff spot. We'll see what happens. The 12th and final game that we have on our schedule is, of course, our game, which was the Flower Bluff Hornets coming into Rockport. The three of us picked Rockport. I picked it because of last week's Miller game. Rockport was so impressive. I thought that we would struggle a little bit, and we didn't. I would almost say we played the perfect game. The boys were just, they were great. It was great to see them play 4 quarters. They were very focused, and I wasn't really that impressed or shocked that Rockport won because they're capable. Before the season started, I said that Rockport would get out of the region. I still think they're going to get out of the region 4. They're going to be good in the playoffs. Hopefully, we don't have any injuries to any of our players. But there's a lot of underclassmen guys in Rockport, and what they've been able to do this year so far, and what they've been able to do the past year has been very impressive. Our program continues to get better in my view. I just think every year Rockport gets better. I'll give props to the coaches for getting these boys prepared week in and week out. And the future looks bright, right, for the Rockport Empire football teams. But this week we ran into a powerhouse in Flower Bluff. It was their first game of the season, but last year, they went up. They got knocked out of the early in the playoffs against. They played San Antonio Wagner. San Antonio Wagner was a tough team, and Flower Bluff took them to the limits. They lost it at the very end. So we knew that Flower Bluff, even though they hadn't played, they're coming with a great running back. And so this is a very powerful team. They beat Rockport 24-0. So Johnny, I'm gonna go to you first because I know you were at the game. All three of us were at the game. Give me your thoughts on the loss Rockport took to Flower Bluff.
Um, well, when we made the predictions for this, as you recall, I didn't do much research about Flower Bluff. I kind of was going blind with them. Y'all are mentioning about their running back and stuff like that, the 2,000-yard rusher. But I was kind of overlooking that because the way we played Miller, it was just everything was on. We saw week 1, everything was completely off. We saw, the next game against Miller, and we just looked like we were just there. We were there just there. Um, this game was totally different. Was our rushing wasn't there. Um, the penalty started coming out. We just started looking like week 1 again, and I was, after scoring so many points against Miller, I was kind of shocked at ourselves. Talking about other teams, being disappointed, just like Taft. I was very I was kind of concerned that we didn't score our points ourselves. We're talking about other teams and looking at Rockport ourselves. I was expecting some points ourselves. So Hard Bluff had somebody this year. That's a big. I haven't seen the TM line, but man, if they're bigger than that Flower Bluff line, man, that's kind of scary. So Flower Bluff is built all the way around. They have a real offensive line the way I saw it. So these guys, they got that big win against a big school. They lost against another big school. These are real great teams our coach has set up with. We're not playing against. We're not going to district undefeated. But we play back to back teams that are highly ranked. And very explosive offense. So I like the competition we're facing. It sure is going to prepare us for district. I can say that.
Hey Tony, to Johnny's point, the last couple of years we've seen this from Coach Cyber, where our preseason is tough. It's been tough the last couple of years. We don't play we play Aransas Pass, but outside of that, it gets very hard. We've got El Campo, Aran Goliad, Alice. We've seen this formula where it prepares us. We don't go into district undefeated. but we win district. At least the last 2 years has prepared us. We won the district, and then we've been able to compete very well in the postseason. So, um, what was your thoughts on Rockport's loss to Flower Bluff?
Well, this is what I will say. I will say that I didn't predict Rockport to be undefeated. I predicted them to win this game, but I did not predict them to be undefeated. You know what I mean? It's hard to be undefeated. You know what I mean? Because any Friday, anything could happen. Uh, to lose to a team like Flower Bluff is it's tough that you didn't score no points, but it's done. That loss is done. It's in the past. That running back is legit. He's legit. That offensive line, they're legit. They're the real deal. They're not all hype. They showed what they can do. They walked the talk. You know what I mean? They are the real deal. So for Rockport to go in there and I mean, I'm gonna say hold him to 24 points with that explosive running back. I mean he was hard to take down. The other thing about the coaches in Flower Bluff, they knew how to control the clock. They had a strategy to control the
Oh
clock.
yeah. Oh
And,
yeah.
and when you're the opposing team and you're down, I mean it sucks. But
Yeah.
I mean that was his strategy. He knew that if he could hold on to the ball long and not give Rockport time,
Yeah.
uh, that he can do something against us. You know what I mean? And I think that was just a good strategy. Just like we had that strategy to shut down the receivers from Miller, they had a strategy to keep the ball out of our hands because they know that Rockport can score. They know that Rockport can drive and kill the clock. So they did it to us before we could do it to them. But they were able to put points up. And when you look at it, they scored 3 points in the second half. From what I saw, they didn't pull any starters. I know the running back got hurt. I don't remember if it was the third or the fourth, but they didn't. They only scored 3 points in the second half. So defensively, that says a lot about how the defense started to pick it up. Offensively, it's hard to get something going. That O line had big big opponents in front of them. I mean, it wasn't like they were playing against a pushover team. That defense is legit too. I mean, to hold our three power runners to minimal yards. I mean that shows that uh, that they got it going on. And there was some passes that if we hit them, we make big first downs or even a touchdown. When they had that interception. I mean that's touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
If that ball is in front of them
Yeah.
instead of behind them, that's a touchdown. And the touchdown in a close game like it was, that changes the game. You know what I mean? So we couldn't get that momentum shift, and I think that was the thing that killed us is we didn't have a play that changed the momentum of the game. But again, if I'm Rockport, if I'm the coaches, I mean we're getting ready for the season. We're getting ready for the postseason, and that's the way we need to look at it. Because being undefeated, I mean, you can't just start a season and say I'm gonna be undefeated this year. That's just hard to do. So the boys need to take this loss and just learn from it. And just be humble that it was against a team that was somebody. You know what I mean? And take it from there.
I'll tell you guys this. Flower Bluff is the real deal. What really surprised me, guys, was their defense. They just swarm all over the ball, man. I mean, we have speed on the outside, and it's very rare that with John, Jupi, he's pretty much able to he gets to the outside really quickly, and he couldn't get to the outside. These guys, they had size, they had speed. They're very well coached. And I think what also hurt the offense was um, our penalties. We had
Yeah.
some real. We started off with the penalties, and that's hard. You get yourself a third and 17, third and 20. It's just hard. Now you're putting the ball, and now, and we talked about this with Miller, where now you're asking, Ace, who's still a freshman, still learning, to have to do something, and we don't want to put him in those type of positions. You want to get him into those we go down 3, 4 yards. Johnny's talked about this. You don't always have to get the 25, 50 yards, or the big breaks. The 3 or 4s, they're just as impressive and they work. And then you get him into that 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2, because Rockport's probably going to go 4 downs if we're in within 5 yards. So then he's in a better position to have to make a play. Getting him 3rd and 20, it's just really hard to have him back there having to make a play. Now, that's not saying he can't make a play because some of the stuff he did was still very impressive in his loss. So I think he'll continue to get better. But we played a really good team, and I think if I'm the guys, I'm not in any way disappointed. If I'm a coach, I'm not in any way disappointed. Our defense played lights out. We gave up 24 points, but one of them was that big play where we were right with them. That very first touchdown was a long throw, and he caught it, made a big play, and he ran. So, our defense I thought stood strong. And I think it's going to better prepare them when they play these teams, because you play a team like Broad Love with size and stuff like that in your defense, and then you go into the district, it really prepares you. You see the speed, you see the running back, you see the quarterback. The quarterback was great, and you're right, Tony. They did to us what we did to Miller. They never let the offense get going. They controlled the clock and they made the plays when they had to. And so we couldn't get into a rhythm, and then getting those penalties didn't help either. So it's something for Rockport to look at this film and look at the mistakes that they made. It's great that they can prepare and look at what they need to work on. Sometimes when you lose, you can especially a loss like this, because it wasn't a 50-0 title loss. We were competitive. Even though we lost, we were competitive on both sides. So it's something for the offense to look at. This is what we did wrong. This is what we need to improve in. And we still have one more week to get things in order before we go into district play. So you're right. I don't take much into this, and we'll break down Rockport's game further in our podcast, in our next podcast, where we'll break down the offense and the defense. But I'm not disappointed in the kids. I think they continue to play hard. We'll fix these things, and I think we'll be ready for district. So it was great. We had 12 games. I think this next upcoming week 6, I think we have more than 12. I know you guys have the list, and I have the list, and we'll be talking about that either later today or tomorrow. But we'll be making the week 6 predictions. But for week 5, this concludes the breakdown.
The what?
We lost you.
Johnny,
You're
I'm
breaking up.
sorry, Johnny. I said right before we say adios. And is there anything you want to add?
No. We asked for it last week to see some upsets. And Sinton beating Lavernia, to me that was an upset. Let's see.
The Moody and
No,
Beeville.
what Soso got there for? Oh, Moody beats Beeville. I mean, that's an upset. So it looks like the season's starting to unfold, and as we said, teams will get better. Teams will get better as the season progresses, and just to the players. I mean, you got to know that. You got to know that. The team that's 1-3, could come back and get a big win. So you just got to keep working hard, and to Rockport. Hey, like I said, humbling loss. You lost to a team that is explosive. I mean, they're good, and I just want to have a shout out for 2 players on the defense. Because like I said, in the defense, there was no point. There was only a field goal in the second half. But for Peyton McAllister to make tackles in the backfield and stop runners at the line against that offensive line, that says a lot about what that boy can do. I mean, man, I'm tell you what, I try to find the wins in that game. When in a 24-0 loss, it's tough to find out what you did good. But man, Peyton McAllister impressed me a lot. That was a big line, and he made some big plays against a line like that, and I was really impressed. And then Ricky Franks, I mean, he really held the secondary down on his side. I mean, he did freaking, he stopped some would-be big touchdowns. You know what I mean? So just a shout out to those boys, and you got to find the wins in a tough loss like that, and build off of that, because you can't just say we had a bad game, everyone did bad, because everyone didn't do bad. You know, it just wasn't our night. So just keep your heads up, boys.
Absolutely. Johnny?
Well, like Tony said, I had previous said the previous week was like, who's going to have the upset of the week, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the whole week ones come by. What does GP have? What does Ray have? What does the other teams have as far as what's going on beyond week one? So everybody got all their games out of the way. We'll see how the other games could continue on.
Absolutely. And before we go, yeah, props to that defense. They played tough. We saw in week 2, we saw Phillips and Franks really play big. Having to cover in 2 weeks now, they've had receivers that have speed and size, and these guys have really, met that challenge. And you can see the hype. They get very excited. They get pumped up, and our secondary is really good. Also, Tony, I saw some first quarter, first half, I think it was. I saw that defense fired up. Players come to the sideline when Toronto scores, and you see these emotions from these guys.
Yeah.
On defense, yelling, wanting to do better, and I think that's a big difference. I think that they want to win. Is what it shows me. They want to be the best they can be. They're not satisfied with just somebody scoring on them. They expect to be able to stop. That mentality on that defense is we're going to stop people every play, even though it's probably not going to happen. But you think that way. We can stop them every play. Every time they get on, they're not going to score a touchdown. And that's what gets you to the next level. It's that type of commitment. And so you're absolutely right. Our D line is going to be good. Our linebackers they're there. We've got the speed. Our secondary. Now we know in 2 weeks they faced some good passing games, and we've met the challenge. And one game we won, the other one we lost, but we've been there, and they're only going to get better as the season progresses. So, props to those kids on defense. You guys have been playing lights out. This was a very tough game for them, but they played 4 quarters. They never gave up. You could see it. And our offense, I have no concerns over that offense. We've got 3 great running backs. It didn't work our way this week, but we're going to be there when it's all said and done. And then props to the coaches too, guys. They've got these boys ready. That's one thing I see in a win or loss. These boys are ready. They're ready to play some football on Friday, and that's great to see. So I think we'll be back next week. We'll make these predictions. I know we've got another great schedule for week 6, guys. And so until then, peace out. Have a great day, and let's watch some NFL football. Let's hope that the Cowboys can win today, man. We need to win. It's going to be tough against Seattle, but we need to win, guys. So until then, peace out, and we'll see you in a few days.
All right.